Today I'm here with multiple Canicross world champion Tessa Philippaerts. Welcome.
Hi. Nice for that I could come over.
Yes. So let's start with the very beginning. How did you get into this sport? How did you start with Canicross?
I have always been a track and field runner from when I was 7 years old. So I started running at a very young age. And I really hated these long endurance runs. And my father said, like, if I always wanted a dog, but my parents didn't want a dog anymore after the oldest one died. So after a while, my father thought I was struggling, and he was like, would you like to run with a dog if I buy a dog for you? So, of course, my answer was yes. So then I got our first dog, and we got a whippet. And I was just basically running with her all my endurance runs. She was just running free in the forest, and we just had a lot of fun. And by that time, I didn't know anything about Canicross or running, that it was like a thing. So at a certain point, my father was Googling something, and he said, like, hey, look, there's like this races you can run with your dog. Like, oh, this must be something for you. Would you like to try it? So I said yes. And we went to our first race, and there was this small stand there with some equipment. So we immediately bought all the equipment that we needed. And I ran my first race with my dog, and she didn't understand anything. And we ended up last, but it was so much fun. No, we just continued growing, and after that we went to every race. And after not a long time, she really got the hang of what Canicross was. And we started to manage to even get to the podium. So from last place to podium with my whippet.
Very cool. So how did this turn into you becoming a world champion and starting at European and World Championship events?
Around when my dog was around 4 years old, she was called Angel. She was injured in her shoulder, so she was not really allowed to run anymore. So we were looking into borrowing dogs, and because we didn't want another dog by that time. We already had another dog, and it was my father who was running with that dog as well, another whippet. But we couldn't run with the same dog at the same time. So I just threw out on Facebook if anybody had a dog for me to borrow for the season. So then I actually met one of my best friends, who had a border collie, which I could borrow. His name was Edge. And I started running with him. And of course, from going with a whippet to a border collie, that was a big difference. So then we started to run even faster, and it was super much fun. I did my first European championship with him. And then we ended 4th place, which was crazy. And then at that European championship, I saw for the first time the Greysters and the Hounds and all these enormous dogs, because in Belgium by that time I thought a border collie was a big dog, and I was just like shocked, like, what is this? So after this I ran with Edge for many years actually, and then I just started to miss like having my own dog. So I was discussing with my father to maybe quit the sport, or if I could get my own dog to continue doing Canicross. So after a while, and looking on the internet, we found a dog that was looking for being rehomed. His name was Yukon. And he was already 11 months old when we picked him up. But we drove all the way to France, picked him up there, and he was just the biggest natural talent ever in pulling and running. He was what we probably call a European sled dog or a Eurohound mix. And he was just amazing. He just worked, and he was so stubborn and so tough, and he just ran. So I remember after he was only living with us for 3 months, there was suddenly something announced about that there was a world championship in Germany, in Borken. So my father was, of course, like, hey, this is only 3 hours from our home place. Maybe you can try to start there. So yes, well, let's go. Jump in the car, take a dog that I just had for 3 months. And by that time, I was still a junior. So we just wanted to give it a try. And I remember it was very cold, and I was just running in this teeny tiny swimming pants, which
This
was
track and
normal.
field outfit.
Yeah, which was normal for track and field runners, but apparently not for mushing sports. So I think we stood out from the beginning in that race. And Yukon just ran amazing, and it was a pretty short track, super flat, which fits us perfectly. We finished first place after the first day, which was amazing. And I didn't know I could run that fast. And we would have run pretty good in the senior class as well. The second day was supposed to be 4 kilometers, I remember. And then it was something wrong, and the team leader from Belgium hadn't told us that the distance was shortened. So I didn't know that I was going to run the short track. And then standing at the start, they were apparently looking for the runner that was starting right in front of me. And this person didn't show up. So they were so stuck with trying to find this person that they hadn't seen that my time was already running. So at a certain point, somebody yells at me like, "Hey, what's your bib number?" I said like, "Oh, this one." "Oh, your time is already going." So I just had this flying start, run out. I was super pissed because I started too late. So I was running like hell. And then at a certain point where the 4K goes to the right and the 2.5 went to the left, I saw they blocked the trail. So I was just yelling at this person, "I have to go to the long trail. I'm doing the wrong trail." And the person was like, "No, you're going to the left. You're going to the left." I just remember it was even made me more pissed. So I just ran even faster until the finish. And I see still when I look back to the old pictures, you can see me coming over the finish line looking really pissed. And because I thought that I was going to be disqualified, or firstly, because I didn't know how late I started, because over 15 seconds you're disqualified.
Yeah.
So, but it was just 15 seconds apparently.
Yeah.
So I came into the finish, and I suddenly noticed that it was all fine. Everybody was running the 2.5K, which really calmed me down a little bit. And then because I was so angry, I ran 30 seconds faster than the day before with 15 seconds late start. It was
So
not
45
counted.
seconds.
Yeah, so it was 45
Wow,
seconds.
that's amazing.
Yeah. So then I saw also that I ran apparently faster than the senior ladies, the first senior ladies time that day. So that was pretty crazy for a first world championship. And it was a really great experience. And that's actually how everything got started.
But then on this competition, a lot of things did not go according to plan. Do you have a way of like overcoming these type of obstacles? They can be either like physical or mental, like these challenges that you face.
Yeah, that day I was not prepared for anything because I had no idea what was awaiting me at the World Championship. But afterwards, I learned to cope a little bit better with this type of stress, and I feel I am always mentally prepared when I come to a championship, because I try to, if I have the opportunity, I will try to go and see the trails, or if people post a video, I will see this video at least 100 times before I go there. So in my mind, I have been running this track already. I know it by heart. And the days when I arrive there, I will also go through the track, look how it looks like. I come to a race with 5 different pair of shoes, so I have the right type of shoes for the right type of trail.
At least I can confirm, I don't think there is anyone that travels with as many shoes as Tessa does to a competition, which often saves other people because they are not prepared. Then you have spare shoes to give to them.
Yes, I have been borrowing a lot of equipment to other people, but I do it gladly. Yeah, and so I try to prepare mentally this way, and I also go through a lot of 100,000 different scenarios in my head. When things go wrong, I try to already fix it in my head, like how I'm going to tackle these different situations. And yeah, that's a little bit how I mentally prepare myself for the race. Also, to prepare your dog mentally for the race, it's also to try and find the same type of trails. Try to train the same distance or the same time you're going to run at the race. If it's a hilly race, of course you go try to train some hills before you go there. And also take your dogs at places like loud places, see people, go to races, and try to work on, if you know that they're struggling with something, try to work with it before you go to a big championship.
That's very good tips. And then you talked a bit about a preparation before a big race, but do you have any rituals, maybe closer to the race, that are like at every race you do it exactly the same?
Yeah, especially for the small races, I am more like taking more as like a training run. So then I'm not doing so much preparations, special preparations before. But for the big championships, I always have the same trainings that I do at least 2 weeks before the big championship. It includes a lot of rest because I like to be rested before my championship, and avoid that I'm getting sick or and stuff like this. So in that way, I have like the same type of trainings right before each big championship because I know they work for me and it gives me good peace of mind that I am doing what I'm supposed to do. And before each race or training itself, I like the day itself. I have also some kind of routine that I'm following. So I always like warm up the dogs, feed. Always try to feed them when I'm at home or when I'm at a hotel, because I have, for example, seen that my dogs are eating better when they are somewhere calm. If I feed them at the stakeout, they might not eat as good as I want them to eat. So I try to feed them or maybe even water them before, somewhere away where it's not so crowdy. I always warm up my dogs before the race or every training, warm myself up. It's not that I have like a super special routine for this, but then after the race, I always have like this special toy or treat that my dogs are getting. They only get it after training or only after a race. So they really like this object or this treat, that special treat that they're getting. And I water them also, give them a little bit water after training or racing. I usually first go in for a little jog with them after, and then I give them water. Even though that they look really tired and are breathing heavily, I think for my dogs it's more important to move a little bit before I give them some water.
It's probably actually even better to
Yeah.
have them calm down a little bit before they get
Yes,
something
because
into their body.
I felt some dogs, they have so much saliva and slime when they come in and finish. If they immediately start drinking, they are just drinking all this slime up and then they can puke out everything.
Yeah.
So I usually want them to be a little bit more calm before they get some water and with some extra meat in or something.
Yeah, that's very smart. You touched on it, and I think when I see you like train with the dogs and race with the dogs, I think it's very special how much you work with this like bond and like have these special toys and treats for them to make this whole running a positive experience. Can you talk a bit more about how you build up this bond and what the role of this bond is within training and racing?
I think it's very important to have a good connection with your dog. So for me, this starts from when you're picking your dog. I'm not the person who kind of looks like, oh, I want this dog because it looks nice. I want this dog to have a personality that fits with mine. I might not look from the outside a stressed person, but I am a really stressed person. So, and the dogs, they can feel this, even though if you cannot see it from outside the dog, they really can sense this. So I really like a breed or a dog that is not easily stressed, because it will just magnify each other. So I like calm dogs. I like, there are some special traits that I like. I just really like, calm dogs, not dominant dogs. And dogs that like to work for me, want to do something together with me. And this also helps like in creating a bond together. So I really like to go outside with my dogs and do also different stuff than running. Or like Canicross, they can run free with me. Sometimes we do some agility training in somewhere if it's too hot, or do some balance training on this special balance pillows inside the house. There's pretty many stuff we've tried with them, and some of my dogs, they are like, I see they really like it, and you get the really better response from them when you do some different stuff. They get more confident when you suddenly come in different situations that are a little bit stressful. They really trust me and I trust them. I think with Canicross it's pretty important that you trust each other. Especially when you, for example, have to pass other people or other teams, you have to be able to trust that your dog is going to pass them without bothering the other dogs. And if you are insecure, it will transfer against your dog, and of course your dog will then do the opposite thing.
Yeah,
So
that's difficult.
yes, I know. So it's very important, this bond, and that you work on this and that you trust each other. And if you have trained well enough before a race, then this trust is in place, and it will only help you become better and run faster. And we use like these special treats and tools like after the training to make it a little bit more interesting, and just to show our dogs that we appreciate them and that we are really happy. We're always happy with their effort, even though if they had a really shit day, they still get the same treat, they still get the same toy. So yeah.
You probably also like get to know them a little bit better, can read them
Yes.
a bit better. You talked a bit about like how you choose a puppy and what is important for you in a dog, but what would you say are the most important qualities in a Canicross dog and in a Canicrosser, like a Canicross person?
For a dog, I don't think in Canicross you need the fastest dog. You just need a dog that's endurant and that's working the whole time. A dog that's focused, and that doesn't bother other dogs when you are running. But of course, on this you can always work. So for the Canicross, it's not so important the speed, but it's more important the focus. And I think for some dogs it's hard because we are running slow.
Yeah,
Even though we are running fast, they can run much faster than us.
Yes.
So it's very important that you have a dog that's easily motivated and stays motivated the whole way. So yeah, that's a little bit what I'm looking for in a dog. Looking for a person. I think that's really difficult because I think most people and everybody who is in this sport is doing it because they like dogs. So it doesn't actually really matter how good you are. But if I have to describe the perfect Canicross runner, then I would say it is somebody who has a lot of speed, because you have to run faster than you actually can run without a dog.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a little bit more complicated, and there's many different training methods also. But yeah, as somebody who has naturally a lot of speed, and then somebody who can maintain the speed over multiple kilometers. So with Canicross, you have also more strain on the body, the dog is pulling you, so there is so much more extra kilograms of weight each time you hit the ground. So strength is also pretty important. So I think as a Canicross runner, you should also be pretty strong.
Yes.
Not too heavy build, of course, but good fitness, good strength, core stability, everything. When you're running Canicross, there's so much more things you have to think about than when you are running alone.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be mentally strong as well, because you have to take care of yourself and you have to take care of your dog at the same time. There are so much more factors and stuff you have to think about when you are running with your dog. So being a little bit mentally tough is probably very good for Canicross. Is there something else I maybe forgot? I also think you have to be very motivated yourself, because if you only think about the winning, I think you will very fast quit with this sport, because this sport is all about the dogs.
Yes.
So I think you just have to be motivated to be a runner and motivated to do something with your dog.
But what is cool is that you can actually train on many of these things. You can train speed, you can train strength. So how do you train?
I have talked with many people before about training programs, and I used to be an 800 meter runner in the track and field. So I based my trainings on 800 meter running, and then just add a little bit more distance and volume to my training runs, so that I can use, because my 800 meter speed is more or less the speed I can run with my dogs over like 4 or 5 kilometers. So I try to adjust my training plans to train like this type of speed, not always, of course, and combine it with Canicross knowledge, or how to say it. It's a little bit difficult, because for me this works very well, because I am an 800 meter runner, and that's the speed I feel is natural. So, but for maybe somebody else who is more like a long distance runner, needs different type of training, needs a lot more training. But for me, this works, and I like it very much. These type of trainings also, it's more shorter intervals, more fun. I feel so. For me, it's very important to have fun during training.
Yeah. But you don't run so much with your dog, do you?
No, it's that's true. Because all the dogs I have, I even if I run with my smallest Alaskan Husky, I am very sore the day after. So I, for people who are listening now, it's normal to not be able to walk for 5 days if you run with Petir, for example.
But that is around 40 kilos?
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct. So don't feel bad. It's normal, I guess.
Yes.
And so I don't run with that often with my dogs. And when I run with them, I usually run with the older ones, the lighter ones, in the beginning of the season. And of course, towards a big championship, then I will try to run a couple of times, like maximum 1 time a week, I think. I go just bigger. I have 4 dogs, so I just start with the lightest one, and then I end with the strongest one to just get used to the speed, get used to the pull and the power.
The power, yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you then train your dogs? Because I guess they need a bit more training than just canicrossing once a week.
My dogs, they train usually when I have my long endurance runs. They run free, so then they get a little bit more like endurance themselves and some volume. And even when I do my interval trainings, I usually take them with me. And they run, when I do my warm-up, they can run free. And then I will put them in the car. I'll do my intervals. And then when I cool down, I have the dogs with me again. So there's many ways I'm trying to combine to have my dogs as active as possible. And then I think the dogs themselves, they are running like 2 to 3 times a week attached to the bikes or scooter. Sometimes I use the 4-wheeler if I have the possibility. And in winter, I ski with them in Norway since we have a lot of snow, or sled. So the dogs, they get 2 to 3 times maximum a week pulling. And I always train them interval training because they think it's really fun, and they can easily build up their stamina and keep up the motivation. For me is the most important thing for them. I also always try to prepare my dogs a little bit more for what we are training for. So if we are going for a 4-kilometer race within 2 weeks, then I will try to prepare them for 5.
Yeah, it's always nicer to have them fresh. And I guess also like canicross takes longer time than training on the bike. So
yes. So with training also, that's good that you're saying this about time, because before I was always stuck on the amount of kilometers we had to do. But then when I train with my bike, of course, obviously I'm going faster, even though I'm braking, than when I'm running. So I have started to train them by time and not by kilometers. So I know if I'm going to run 5K in 20 minutes or faster, then I know I will do my intervals so that they have had 20 minutes of pulling at least.
Is there any specific reason why you're training your dogs separately?
It's basically because they are very strong, and I am very tiny. So I try to keep myself from getting injured. So I like to prepare myself properly and separately, and the dogs as well. And then I try to avoid to get injured too much, because it is much more strain on your body.
Yeah, then you're both in your best shape for the races.
Yes.
Do you have any very like special memories from a specific race that you would mention?
Oh, there's so many. But Borkin is the one that's very much stuck in my brain. I can still feel all the emotions that happened.
That's the first
those
World
days.
Championship with Yukon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that one is pretty stuck. But there is also then my last championship with Yukon. That was in Sweden. I don't remember the year, but then I think Yukon was almost 9 years old. I didn't expect him to be at that good shape at that age. So I knew this was probably going to be his last championship. So we just gave it all. And I think the first day we were in 4th place. And then the second day I just gave it all. And then just beat Sanna, poor Sanna, with a few seconds. So
She got revenge the year after
yes.
becoming world champion, so we are not feeling that bad for Sanna.
Yes, that's true. So, but I was so happy with Yukon that we got our last race together and that we managed to get the bronze medal at the European Championship. That was amazing.
And that was, I think, very impressive. And now we just talked about Sanna. She's one of the other Canicross team members who lives in Sweden. Canicross is a bit about community as well. What would you say about this community? Is there any way that this community is affecting you or has affected you throughout the years?
Of course, I met so many nice people, and for many years ago, I had been doing these like seminars and training camps abroad over the whole world almost. And I think this was so interesting that people wanted to hear about my story, even though I feel I have already told it 100 times. So I think it's very nice that people want to learn. And yeah, like I said, I met so many nice people. I've learned so much from other people. I just think it's so nice to come at the World Championship and just to go around the stakeout and talk with people that I haven't seen for over a year, but it feels like it's yesterday. So Canicross is a little bit like, it feels a little bit like coming home each time, even though that there's a lot of stress on these big championships. I really like it. And of course, with Nonstop also, we have like the Canicross team, which I really like. And I love the connection that we have with all the people in the team. So each time we meet each other, there's like very low thresholds to go and talk to each other, even though we are rivals, but we are also friends. And I think that's super nice that we have this opportunity to learn from each other there as well.
Do you think it's a welcoming community? So like anyone who starts with Canicross is welcomed in this community?
Yes, I think so. Or at least I feel so, or I try to include new people as much as I can. But I think it's always hard for new people to start somewhere. But I think if everybody just continues and takes care of the new people, because they are the future of the sport, then it should be great.
So, as you said, there are a lot of people that just want to learn about Canicross. So, what would your best advices be for someone looking to start with this sport?
My best advices are always to have fun, because your dog obviously knows it when you are not having fun or if you are stressed or whatever. Or they know it so much better than we do sometimes. So having fun is the most important thing. Even though if you have a bad day, even if your dog has a bad day, it has to stay fun. Always at least stop your training with something fun, with like treat, toy, whatsoever. Keep it short and fun, especially in the beginning. It can be as short as 100, 200 meters. Doesn't have to be more than this. Just so your dog gets to know what he's doing and that he thinks it's fun what he's doing. One of the biggest mistakes I see is that people are like, I'm going to start with Canicross. The first day I'm going out for a 10-kilometer run. And of course the dogs manage to run 10K. They have much better endurance than we do, but they might also get tired. And it works different for them because they don't know which distance they're doing. So we know we're going to run for a 10K, but they might not start as they are going to run for a 10K.
Yeah.
So you have to build up towards the distance you're working to. So if you have only been training 2 kilometers and you see your dog is ready for 2 kilometers, don't go for a 5-kilometer race.
Yes.
Because the only thing your dog will learn is like, oi, I got really tired. And then it's maybe okay if he gets really tired one time. But if this happens a couple of times, he will kind of loses its trust in you. So then it takes some time to build this trust back up again. So then you might have a dog that always starts to trot or for a long time if you want them to be galloping into the finish. So that's one of my tips. Another tip is to always hydrate your dog before you go running. How small, how short, doesn't really matter. I even water my dogs when they are going free running or just like for a hike. When I know I'm out for an hour, they get some water 1 to 2 hours before training. You can put something in there, something that they would like to eat, like a spoon of meat or something small. Don't feed your dogs a full portion right before you go running. That's also an important one. Dogs are very prone to stomach turns, so to avoid this, it's kind of smart to not feed them too close to a training run. So I don't feed my dogs maybe 3 to 5 hours before racing. I would rather have 5 hours than 3. And if it's 3, they get a little bit less.
Yeah.
And then I water them 1 to 2 hours before. Is there something else I'm thinking about? It's also good to prepare yourself in a way, because running Canicross, if you have a strong dog, it's not so much fun if you feel that you have to hold back all the time.
Yeah.
So in that case, you might train uphills instead with your dog to make it a little bit easier for yourself to follow. And just work a little bit on your own fitness and condition. Some other tip is to have the right gear. So we use everything from also dogwear for many years. I think over 10 years, 12 years maybe. So it's important that the harness is fitting well on the dog. And if you don't have the knowledge, just ask somebody in the company who knows. We are always eager to help with sizing. So your dog is comfortable when he is running. And it's important to have a bungee leash in Canicross, because it takes off the strain of your dog's back. It takes the strain off your back. And of course, to have like a well-fitting running belt for yourself, it makes the experience just so much better to have a fitting belt.
I think some people think that, they're not sure yet if they really want to get into this sport. So they will just like go with whatever harness they have, or maybe even a collar or whatever belt they have. But it's not a nice way to get into it, even though I do realize it's like a big investment. And of course, you don't necessarily want to do that. It can make a big difference for your dog to feel comfortable while running.
I think it makes the whole experience just so much nicer. Otherwise, you will think like, if your dog is really strong, what the hell is this? And it just hurts.
Nothing for me.
Yes, so it might seem sometimes a little bit shocking.
Yes.
So I think, finding the right equipment is very important. Dear friends in Argentina, I would like to invite everybody to participate at the Canicross Summit. Everybody who wants to learn something about Canicross, practical or theoretically. I hope that many of you guys can join there. And I was super happy to get these questions and to answer them for you guys. Have a nice one. Bye.